Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the audio side, you'll see in the description the ways that you can connect with us. Also, if you are on the audio side, leave a rate and review. That always helps the channel grow. Give us a 5-star because that'll help as well. I think David Benavidez, we talked about a few guys. There's another guy on this card, Bam Rodriguez. You talk about the next face of American Mexican boxing. David Benavidez has to be on there, possibly Virgil Ortiz, but even Bam Rodriguez. But I think David Benavidez is probably one of the biggest stars in boxing right now, Bryan.
Yeah, we saw it with the Caleb Plant fight. I was surprised at how much buzz it generated. I feel like it also performed above expectation. Not that it killed it out here compared to like some of the top guys, but it established David Benavidez in a different way, where I think he's a little bit more than just like a niche favorite. He hasn't crossed over completely or anything like that, but he clearly has star potential. So here's the card. Um, as usual, BoxRec just sort of reorders it, and the reason why is because by their rating and metric system, Anthony Yarde makes the David Benavidez fight a 4-star fight, whereas you have 3 5-star fights on the card: Sam Noakes, Abdullah Mason, Jesse Rodriguez, Bam Rodriguez, and Fernando Martinez, and Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney.
Ooh.
But technically, the main event is supposed to be Benavidez and Yarde. I disagree with that, by the way. To me, the main event should be
Haney and Norman.
Or Bam Rodriguez.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. I think David Benavidez is the biggest name on there.
That's probably true.
There's only two people,
weird.
But
it would have. Isn't it kind of Devin Haney though?
No, because there's only 2 people that can sell out an arena. Devin can't do it on his own. Brian Norman Jr. isn't as big of a name right now. He probably will be after this weekend, in my opinion. We'll get to that. Other than Bam Rodriguez, David Benavidez is the biggest star on here. That's why he's the headliner. That's why
he's a bigger name than Bam Rodriguez.
He will sell out arenas. David Benavidez will sell out arenas. That's how big of a superstar he is. He could essentially be the next face of boxing, Bryan, I think, if he continues this.
Yeah. Bam, to me, is the best pound for pound guy on the card. And I don't think
he's top 5.
I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. But Dave Benavidez, I think is the biggest name.
The only reason why Bam doesn't have the same cachet yet is because he fights in a smaller weight class. And as you know, the smaller weight classes don't get as much love as, the other weight classes. So that's the only reason, I think. But yeah.
Nope, there's another reason. There's another reason. He fights on DAZN. Dave Benavidez came up fighting on Showtime, on PBC cards that are more easily accessible than DAZN, because as Lou DiBella continues to remind Ariel Helwani every time he goes up there, nobody fucking has DAZN in the States.
Yeah. I know a few people that have DAZN in the States, but you gotta,
not nobody as in literally and nobody, but for the most part, like, people knew boxing. People knew Showtime for boxing. People had Showtime for boxing. People had access to PBC cards very easily because their cards were like on Fox, on all these other platforms, as we've talked about numerous times. But David Benavidez is a bigger name because he's also been around longer. But I think it's that too. It's not the fact that he won his title before and then had to give it up, and it's older. It's been around longer, but also he fought on Showtime, not DAZN in the corner of the internet that most people just don't give a shit about.
But also he's been tied to names like Canelo, where David Benavidez has been in the news, been in the spotlight. People have said Canelo's been ducking him, whereas Bam really hasn't had that. Bam has not had that type of those stories come out about him, right? Like, Bam's been proven that he's one of the best. He's top 5 pound for pound right now, in my opinion. So we'll get to that, but I think there's a reason, obviously, why David Benavidez is the headliner. So why don't we start off with that fight first? Even though a sneaky good one is Sam Noakes and Abdullah Mason. Because the people in the UK, they rock with Sam Noakes. Is this going to... We'll get to that a little bit later, but let's start off with David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde. Bryan, since your screen is up, do you want to bring up the odds?
We'll do it. I do think, though, as I said this before, when we talked about this, probably when it got announced or so. I think this could be a tougher fight for David Benavidez than some people are letting on. I
Hmm.
think David Benavidez will probably win, but I may sniff around an Anthony Yard line or two just because he has the type of power. Like we've seen David Benavidez get rocked, get dropped multiple times in his career. I do think that Anthony Yard has legitimate power that you need to be frightened by. And David Benavidez also, there's a question of how well does his power translate at this level. I'm not saying Anthony Yard is going to walk through his punches because I don't think that's going to be the case. He will try to walk him down. Good luck with that. But at the same time, like Anthony Yard he might be the biggest puncher in this fight, you know, and this is why I don't think he should be where he's projected to be in terms of the odds, which I'm going to pull up right now. He is wow. He's plus 680. Dave Benavidez is minus 1200.
That's disrespectful to Anthony Yard. That's very disrespectful to Anthony
We
Yard. But if you're a
we did
better,
say this last week about Virgil Ortiz and Erickson Lubin, though.
yeah. But if you're a better, you like those odds for Anthony Yard. The only thing is, yeah, Yard does have some power. He's going to have to start off fast, which he normally does. But at
Mm.
the same time, he has to hurt David Benavidez fast. He's going to, also have his speed. He's good at counterpunching. Only liability for him is conditioning. And as you know, David Benavidez gets better as the fight goes on. Once he gets into the rhythm, he's very hard to stop. He'll also take some hits and he'll be landing some big shots on you. I don't think Anthony Yard wins this fight unless he hurts David Benavidez early. And I just don't see that happening. I think this is going to end in a stoppage, Brian. David Benavidez gets his stoppage or gets a knockout against Anthony Yard. This is the one where we're going to be like, okay, we see it. Because when you move up a weight class in the beginning, you have to get used to that weight class, right? Like, look at Bud when he moved up to 154. He didn't get a stoppage or a KO against Madrimov. Then he moved up again against Canelo. He moved up a lot, and he ended up put on a great show. But there's still that pop and power that David Benavidez has, and I think he's going to show it in this fight. Anthony Yard will make it interesting, though. I think it's going to happen between rounds 9 through 12. And if we take a look at the other betting factors here, we got David Benavidez by KO TKO minus 160. David Benavidez by points. That's a plus 185. Is that, Brian? Okay, great. So my
Yeah.
vision is still intact because it's very small on the screen. But Anthony Yard, if you wanted to bet on him, by points or decision would be plus 2,000. And by KO or TKO, it would be you're moving it there. So you can read that for me, Brian. A plus 800.
I'll just read them all.
I just
David
read them all. You don't have to read them all.
Okay,
Yeah. So Anthony
sure.
Yard, for him to get a TKO or KO, would be a plus 800.
800, yes, and by decision, if you think this is somehow going to not somehow, it might go to the cards. Plus 2,000 for Anthony Yard. I do think if Anthony Yard is going to win this, he has to knock him out.
No.
So I think, and I'm sure he intends to. He said so. I do wonder what this is going to just look like. Like David Benavidez is going to try to be the aggressor against a guy in Anthony Yard who also enjoys trying to be the aggressor. If you look at total rounds, let's guess the over under. I'm going to say 9.5 for total rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say 9.5. Like I said, I think the stoppage is going to happen between round 9 through 12. That's when it's going to happen.
Nailed it. 9.5. Look at that. I know a little something about how Vegas works. To be knocked down and win, Dave Benavidez plus 850, Anthony Yard plus 5,000. Will both fighters be knocked down plus 950? I usually just roll my eyes at this prop. I think for this fight, it's actually kind of plausible. I'm probably giving Anthony Yard too much respect, but I do think, Dave Benavidez should win this. And also to get a knockdown, minus 240 and 2 knockdowns plus 105. You got to be careful with the 2 knockdown bets because sometimes somebody gets dropped and then just get rocked and they don't actually get stopped. So there's a lot there. I don't know how I'm going to look at this yet. I'm tempted to sprinkle on Anthony Yard just because it's such a long number, and I don't think David Benavidez is unbeatable, indestructible. Like he's undefeated, yes, and he's really, really good, clearly. But he doesn't strike me as one of these type of dudes. Like, I absolutely cannot bet against. Like Terrence Crawford, I'm not betting against. Alexander Usyk, I'm not betting against. Now you're in a way. I'm not betting against. I will if he fights.
But you did bet against Usyk. You took Fury.
Yeah, and now I'm not. I learned my lesson. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
But Fury's also plausible because the first fight was close, and he also had like a unique size, skill, combination, footwork, all these different things where it's like, okay, maybe. And until he got rocked in the 9th round, it looked like it was going to go his way. David Benavidez is not one of those dudes.
No, but I think his power and his speed and his skill is better than Anthony Yarde's. Like, I think you think Anthony Yarde is the bigger puncher, but for me, David Benavidez, I don't know who's going to beat him yet. I don't think it's Anthony Yarde.
That's fair.
So that's why
I probably agree with that.
So that's why it's like, it depends on if he ends up moving up. What fights could we possibly get? There are some very interesting ones. And then I would be like, I don't know if I would take David Benavidez. But you're right in terms of
Bivol. Like if he stepped up in competition and fought Bivol.
That's what I mean. I don't know if I'm taking anyone against Bivol.
Right. If he fought Better Biev.
Listen, he's Canadian now. I'm taking Better Biev.
It's also be a tongue twister. Benavidez versus Better Biev is going to be
annoying. But Better Biev is like getting sneakily older, like really old, and that's my only that's my only worry though. But at the same time, Bivol is so skilled, and I don't know. Like those were 2 great fights too.
I agree with DT. Let's get to the main event. We're both think Benavidez wins, but I think I'm not positive he stops him. By the way, last thing on this fight, did you see this awkward post from Ring Magazine where they were touting their card and then they said 193 wins and just 3 losses? The 8 fighters on the main card have a crazy combined record. Anthony Yarde has all 3 of these losses. Kind of fucked up that they would post this. And then a lot of people also use this as an opportunity to dunk on Devin Haney and say, actually, it should be 193 and 4. Because we all saw what happened against Ryan Garcia, even though we know there were some extracurriculars.